think like even like last year, you know, typical conversation, I did a really good comparison and I was telling people that, you know what, look at how our country, like even with the law and the government
True.
is handling things, you know, like, you know, we did have our internet, we did have like, you know, the protest, and unfortunately, you know, a few people did lose their life.
For sure.
But I was saying, like, if you compare like our extreme and the extremes of other countries, how they can go, like it's a bit insane when you think what's happening out there.
For Tanzania has been so extreme. Do you imagine 1,000 people dying
There you go.
in a span of almost 2 days of protests, 2 or 3 days? 1,000 people.
Is
And
it
in fact,
1,000 for sure?
It is 1,000 the number of people they have been able to count. In fact, there was a report that was done by a certain independent journalist in Tanzania. It was at 700 after 2 days of protest. After 3 days, it was acclaimed to be 1,000. And in fact, it is more than 1,000 because it has been hard for independent journalists, not independent, but other mainstream and NGO journalists to clarify on the amount of people who have been died, because the government has literally shut down the access of publication, has shut down anyone who's trying to investigate that matter. So it is more than 1,000.
Larry Madowo couldn't go to Tanzania.
And he explained it very well. It is impossible
Yep.
for them to set up independent investigation as journalists. So why would you not even say it's 1,000? It is 1,000 people who have been died. And one of the things that I've loved about the internet is that people are always recording.
Yeah, true.
In fact, I found a very good Telegram channel at a certain point that was putting out hundreds of videos from Tanzania. And you could see people blatantly being killed on the street. There was another video of over 15 bodies piled up at a certain street. So Samia Suluhu killed over 1,000 Tanzanians. You can imagine that.
Listen, I said it last year. And, you know, a lot of people, like, you know, couldn't understand what I was trying to say. But this is exactly what I was saying, because compare, look at the extremes. And I also, like, even on our last conversation, I was saying, like, even women and children are not being spared in Tanzania.
They're not entirely. In fact, I was wondering, what if Tanzania faced a situation whereby they were trying to invade parliament the same way Kenyans we were doing it? I think Samia would decide to kill 1 million youths.
She wouldn't care.
She wouldn't care anything about it.
Yeah.
And I've come to realize that at least there is some sense of tolerance in our police officers.
Yeah, that's exactly
and also
what
our
my
system
point
of
was.
governance.
Yes.
Kenyans, in some way, there is that bureaucracy and, you know, that authoritarianism, but there is a sense of tolerism.
Yep.
Whereby a police officer would just watch you as you hurl insults at them. A police officer would see a small crowd of people protesting and even throwing stones at them, but they would just shoot in the air, even though at some point maybe they would kill some people. But
when it comes to that extreme, they might have to, but they can restrain themselves. That's what I was trying to say compared to other people. And I gave examples, like even in the USA.
For sure.
I said Uganda. I said Sudan. These are the countries that I mentioned. And I was telling people, like, do you think or understand, like, what could actually happen if
for
just
Tanzania
something
has been extreme? In fact, I was also flabbergasted by what happens. You know, as a law student, you're always reading this Human Rights Watch by Amnesty UN, because you've studied human rights law. And I was really surprised at what really happened in Tanzania. That is when now I realized that the issue of democracy in Tanzania has been a fallacy for a long time.
For sure.
That is when I now decided to read about the political history of Tanzania, to understand how has it come that CCM, Chama cha Mapinduzi, has become an authoritarian since 1961. And I've realized that for a very long time, Tanzanians have never protested. So this is the first time.
Yep.
So these protests has awakened and enlightened the fact that Tanzanians are not democratically free.
They're not.
They're not, yeah.
And also, like, now, just even before we touch on like the Tanzanian president, let's just talk about like the electoral process in general. What do you think about the election process and how, like, you know, I had, like, you know, the rivaling parties and even like candidates, most of them were in jail anyway.
Yeah, but in fact, I want to tell you something. For you to understand the situation in Tanzania,
Yeah.
I want you to go back to history a little bit And one of the people whom I criticize highly and I don't look up to is Julius Nyerere. In fact, Africans have this big problem of glorifying and romanticizing their founding fathers. While the problems that they face from the beginning started with these founding fathers.
It stemmed from back then.
The problem that we face today in Kenya with corruption, the issues of land grab, it started with our founding father, Jomo Kenyatta. The same happens in Tanzania, Julius Nyerere. So, and the reason why you have to analyze this is because you question, how comes Tanzania has never had a president from another party except CCM, Chama cha Mapinduzi? So the first president for Chama cha Mapinduzi is Julius Nyerere in 1961 after independence. So most people think Julius Nyerere was an enlightened and a good leader, but not. Immediately, Julius Nyerere took over power with the party. That is where now all the problem now started. So Julius Nyerere, first of all, he introduced a single party system, just like it was with Moi. You know, Julius Nyerere had this ideology of socialism and also maybe this ideology of communism. So he wanted a state whereby the people are ruled by only one party, and only one party gets to decide on who becomes the president and who gets to lead that country. But now the problem with that is that this party abuses power so much and people cannot even criticize it. So these people set up certain mechanism in order to make sure that they have full control over that country.
Yep.
So number one, the government manipulates the rule of law and they start jailing people. Did you know Julius Nyerere jailed people?
I didn't know.
There is a report that was happening with Amnesty during apartheid.
Like random people or political rivals?
Political rivals.
Okay.
And anyone who was speaking against the single party system. Julius Nyerere had jailed over 1,000 individuals. Do you know at that point, comparing to the report in apartheid in South Africa, there were less number of captives than it was in Tanzania.
That's even more than the Mau Mau, if I'm not wrong.
More than it.
Yeah.
And it is being overlooked by so many historians or people who have read about Julius Nyerere. At that point, he jailed over 1,000 people who were not agreeing to the single party system of CCM. So number one is the media. First of all, Tanzania has never had a free media for a very long time. And it starts with Nyerere. So first of all, Nyerere bans certain publications and he bans people from talking freely about government issues. In fact, they say that whatever you're talking about will disturb the peace and order in Tanzania, so you cannot do it. So that is how he entrenches the kind of bureaucracy now we are seeing, the kind of stemming of putting away certain critics through publication, media's independent journalists that we're seeing today. He is the one who started it with that single mechanism of stopping people from criticizing CCM. So number two, he diverts a lot of state resources to CCM. So imagine state house having an allocation of over 12.5 billion. All that is diverted to the party, the ruling party.
Have you seen like the motorcades that Suluhu Hassan uses?
Exactly. Now,
have you seen
the
that motorcade?
Yeah, that is what really happened.
That's ridiculous.
Samia has a motorcade of over 90 vehicles.
I have, that makes no, that woman is crazy.
You've seen? So you can literally see the display of state resources being used.
Misuse of funds.
Misuse of funds. There are Tanzanian artists who are paid an upward of 50 million Kenya shillings to be campaigning for the president.
Oh, okay, we're talking about Diamond.
All these people are paid by the state.
So the funds that we're talking about, it makes perfect sense. That's why these artists show like such a big, lavish lifestyle.
Exactly.
Okay.
That is why you can see Harmonize dancing so well, praising Samia Suluhu. It's because there are certain state resources that are always taken by the president and diverted into the party affairs.
And it makes sense because I was wondering, where are these artists in Tanzania getting so much money? Like our monetizing in East Africa is not that high. But how comes the artists just seem to be doing so well financially? Several cars, flying in.
People like Diamond
yeah.
get so much support from the government.
I can tell. Now it makes perfect sense
Do
where
you know,
his money
even
comes
registering in Tanzania right now, you cannot just register a television company or a publication company or a news media agency.
from. And he has a media.
He has one of the biggest media agencies there.
Diamond, we see you now. It makes sense.
He was able to do that because of the kind of government relations that he has with the ruling party, CCM. He is also funded by these people. So it has become hard for him to talk anything against this government. So you see, Nyerere put up a system whereby state resources are being used to fund that ruling party. And that is what was carried down up until right now.
Okay.
But, also on a larger scale, one of the things that affected Tanzanians was the education system. So Tanzania, especially Nyerere, introduced a certain system of ujamaa. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I remember it from school, but you can give us like
just ujamaa was an indoctrination of Tanzanians because it taught them to be good citizens.
Yeah.
You compare the tolerance of Tanzanians and Kenyans, it is very different. Kenyans were brought up in an education system that maybe challenged some of the things. True. But the education system of Jamaa that was introduced by Nyerere used to indoctrinate a lot of Tanzanians that we need a lot of peace. You cannot criticize the founding father of Tanzania. You cannot criticize the ruling party. Yeah. Let us be one. So that indoctrination has made that tolerance of Tanzanians for so many years to see the atrocities that are being done by the ruling party, but not speak about it. Because education is the most important thing, by the way, in a country. If you want to take control over the country, over the minds of children, you start with education.
True. Start
telling them that this is how you're supposed to act. And
these are the rules you should follow.
And that is how they will act for the entire year. So that was the problem with now Nyerere. So all these problems that we are seeing today starts with Nyerere. And now after it happened, the reason why CCM has now become so radical or very intense in terms of arresting people or the kind of law warfare that they're putting in place is because at a certain point, it started losing popularity.
Among the people?
Yes, among the people. So CCM for a very long time has won elections with over 94%, just like we're seeing here today. I don't know why people are surprised. That is how it has been for a long time.
Yeah.
So there was a certain year in the 2010s whereby it reduced to about 70-something%. So after that, that is where things now started being intense. And it was intense with Magufuli now.
That's when now he came in and now like things were just like,
Yeah, so the moment he started
straight bulldozing everything.
Popularity, Magufuli now wanted to intensify the rule of the party in the country. Tundu Lissu was shot multiple times.
Who's Tundu Lissu?
Tundu Lissu is now the main opposition party
in
Tanzania. Think of him like the Raila of Tanzania. Right now that he's even in detention makes him quite a hero there.
He's still in detention right now.
Still in detention right now. But that is not the worst part he has faced. Tundu Lissu was shot multiple times and he had to be flown to Belgium. It was in September 2017. He was shot by Magufuli. And he was seen as one of the candidates who was going to win against Magufuli and the ruling party at that point. So the kind of suffering we're seeing with Tundu Lissu did not just start today. It started with Magufuli.
Yeah.
So this guy has been a force when it comes to politics in Tanzania.
And then now if we are, like, do you have any other pointer before I want us to touch on like maybe Suluhu's maybe background?